Alright, Za Asabu, YouTube, good morning. This is Traveling Tony. Today, I'm here in Tanzania. Well, I live in Tanzania now, but I'm in Tanzania and we're going to be reacting to a clip of a Black American girl that experienced something unfortunate. I'm not making light or making fun of what she experienced. It's just a reaction. My fiance and I are going to react to what she said and give our experiences living here. Her being a local and me being a foreigner, a nomad.
And from what I've noticed from this whole repatriation movement is that people are only allowed to say good things and only positive things about their repatriation experience in certain countries. And if they dare talk about a negative experience they had, then a bunch of hateful people are gonna just go after them with fiery pitchforks, tell them to go back to America, tell them they're not welcomed, tell them they're not African, tell them that they're annoying.
Okay, so first we're gonna touch on what she was saying, repatriation movement. I wouldn't really call it a movement, but it occurred in the late 1800s. They sent slaves back to, I guess, West Africa, and Liberia and Sierra Leone were formed by former slaves. But repatriation is the returning of something to its original place, so place of origin. So, for example, if you're Jamaican and you're in America, and a form of repatriation would be deportation. So if you committed a crime, they sent you back to your country, that is repatriation as well. Now, what she's saying with blacks or African Americans or Black Americans, whatever, Jamaicans coming to Africa, I wouldn't really call it repatriation because we're just going to different countries that we find interesting and try to live there. It's not like we're going to, we do a 23andMe and see where we have a bulk of our DNA and we're returning to that place. Let's say, for example, me, let's say I'm like 70% Nigerian. But also, if I go back to Nigeria, would they accept me? Would they accept my opinions and stuff about the country? And we're gonna talk about that on a live I'm doing this weekend. This weekend, we're gonna talk about return to Africa as a Black American. Are we allowed to give our real opinions? Can we say negative things, or do we only have to say positive things about Africa as Black Americans? Are we chastised for saying negative things about African nations? We'll talk about that this weekend for sure. It's gonna be an interesting live. I have a lot to say on that subject. I could talk for a long time about that. People are free to come on my live panel and talk about it as well. But we're gonna get into the video.
Had to leave was the fact that I got attacked by a Bolt driver. If you don't know what Bolt is, it's kind of like Uber. It's cheaper. This incident happened all the way back in January, and I didn't want to tell anybody about it because I didn't want to make anybody's country look bad. I didn't want to put bad publicity on any country, so I decided to keep it to myself, although it was extremely traumatizing. So what happened was I was, just riding in the Bolt car, and I should have noticed that he was really off in the beginning. He was just giving me like a death stare the whole time, the whole ride. I don't know if it was because of my accent or whatever, but when I was trying to find him in the parking lot, he didn't move the entire time. He just sat in his car. And then when I finally found him, he was giving me the ultimate death stare. So we were driving, and then all of a sudden he drops me off in a random location. He ended the trip early and said, "Give me money." And then I was just sitting there. I was like, I can't give you any money until you drop me off in my proper location. I don't know where I am. You can't just end a trip, drop someone off in the middle of the street, and then tell them to give you money. When I told that to him, he grabbed my arm. He was like squeezing my arm so aggressively. And when I was trying to click out of my seatbelt, he put his hand on the seatbelt so I couldn't click out. So he was like low-key kidnapping me. And this was January time, so this was when my accident was fresh. So I was really, really, really so afraid that he would try to like bash my head in or something. Just to keep in mind, this was a really, really traumatic event that happened to me. So I don't want to hear anybody being disrespectful. I'm speaking about my experience, okay? I was literally sobbing with tears. I was like, get off of me, stop this. You expect me to give you money if you're like literally have your hands on me? I didn't even know what to do. I just felt so helpless in that moment. And keep in mind, this was also in broad daylight. I literally called out to a man that was like on the opposite side of the car, and I was like, please, please help me. I was screaming, and the man got scared and just walked away. And the Bolt driver literally snatched my phone out of my hand because I was trying to call my friend, and I was just trying to show her everything that was happening. I was like, please, Lord, Creator.
I'm so sorry for her negative experience here in Tanzania. I mean, stuff like that doesn't usually happen. Have you ever experienced a Bolt driver try to rob you and like grab you and stuff? Have a Bolt driver ever grabbed you or anything like that?
No.
Do you know people that's happened to? Like girls to wear Bolt
Yeah,
drivers?
I have some of my friends that get robbed.
They got robbed by Bolt before. Okay, I mean, so that's actually news to me. I didn't know that. I guess it can happen. If you're a woman, I would assume it's more likely to happen. I've taken Bolt many times. She's never had anything happen to her either by herself. But I mean, I've taken Bolt many times. I've had good experience and bad I only had one real bad experience, mainly good experiences. When I first came here, I was impatient, I was in a rush. I had a guy that didn't really understand how to use the map. I wasn't privy to the fact that they don't know how to use the map like that. Some of them, most of them do. Some of them don't know what they're doing. They're just doing the job with a car or a bajaji that they got from a friend or whatever, and they don't know how to use the map or anything. They're just driving. But I had experience where I'm just being totally honest and transparent here. I had a guy that was going the wrong way. And I'm like, man, what's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you know what you're doing? And then I canceled on him, and then I requested again. And I didn't even pay attention because I was in such a rush. It was the same guy, and he actually came. He picked us up, and he was telling her in Swahili, like, oh, why are you guys abusing language for me, stuff like that towards me, things of that nature. Remember that guy?
Yeah, I do remember.
And he gave us a free ride. He didn't even charge us at all. That was a humbling moment for me. He could have been confrontational. He could have had an attitude, but he was so calm and collective and just so cool. It was so humbling for me, and I was like, damn, maybe I am being rude and stuff like that with how I'm acting. Let me change my ways and stuff like that. But I've had a bad experience too with a guy who was trying to get over on me. We got to the location. He didn't want to end the trip. He was rushing me. He kept calling me nigga. He was like, hurry up, nigga. Come on, let's go, nigga. Stuff like that. It was a heated situation because, you know, it's hot. He's trying to rush me. I'm coming from a Western place as well, living in the West my whole life. So, for mainly my life, I lived, you know, until I was 17, 19. Then I moved to Japan and stuff like that. I lived around the world, things of that nature. But anyways, still I have the impulsive behavior as far as like someone's coming at me aggressively to respond with aggression. So I'm responding back with aggression. He gets out the bajaji. We're about to fight. He steps up to me. She actually gets in between. The security guards come and stuff like that because it's in the public place. It was getting pretty crazy. But that was the only time I had a bad experience. Other than that, the people are lovely. I wouldn't live here if that was the case. Most places I've been to in Africa, I haven't had any issues with requesting. I'm sorry that happened to her. I mean, I'm at a loss for words for her situation. A realistic way to look at this is it's a patriarchy, you know, or in these countries, in patriarchal type countries, if you are a smaller person or you look weak, they're going to go to those extents to try to rob you and things of that nature.
But there's no excuse. But it happens around the world. There's dickheads around the world. People are dickheads everywhere. So you can't just say, like, you know, I don't know, you can't make light of it. There's dickheads everywhere, and you have to be aware of that. So there's no place is 100% just perfect. There's issues everywhere. Be aware of that. Be aware of safety precautions. Be aware of all that stuff. Especially if you're going to a place where, I don't know, people may be in need of money and stuff like that. But I haven't seen it. You know, this is a very peaceful country. I've had, like, issues totally here. I can count on one hand issues I've had with people here. Like, in almost 2 years, only 2 issues with people, and one of them was a ball. And it's a sad situation. Sorry that she had to go through that. And I just wanted to touch on that. Things like that do happen around the world. As nomads, you need to be aware of your surroundings and how to handle yourself and be ready to get out of a possibly